Alright, so today's presentation is on skin diving. What is skin diving? Using a mask and other equipment to explore the underwater environment while remaining safe and using effective techniques. Essentially, skin diving is the same as snorkeling as you use the same equipment, with the one key difference being that you actually dive under the water to investigate things, the aquatic life and whatnot. Alright, so underwater physics and why they're important. So equalizing is one. Your middle ears are dead air spaces connected to the outer world by the Eustachian tubes running to the back of your throat. When you fail to increase the pressure in your middle ears to match the building pressure around you, the result is pain and potential damage to the delicate mechanisms of the air. The key to safe equalizing is opening the normally closed Eustachian tubes, allowing high pressure air from your throat to enter your middle ears. The easiest way to do this is by pinching your nose, then blowing gently. This will clear the pressure and allow you to dive deeper. It is good practice to do this often before you can actually feel any pain or discomfort. Alright, air volume. Liquids can't be compressed, but air can. As a diver submerges and goes deeper, the air in his lungs will be compressed by the surrounding pressure of the water. Upon submerging, the volume of air in a diver's lungs will now be a normal volume. At 10 metres, the volume would have halved. At 20 metres, it'll be a third of what it was at the surface. At 30 metres, a quarter. 40 metres, a fifth, and etc. Fresh water is less dense than salt water, so the rate of pressure increase is slightly different. Pressure increases every 34 feet as opposed to 33 feet for salt water. And I'm sure you know that 33 feet is the same as 10 metres. Alright, buoyancy. Positively buoyant, when an object is more buoyant than the surrounding environment, so it would float. Negatively buoyant, when an object is less buoyant than the surrounding environment, then it sinks. And neutrally buoyant is when it's perfectly buoyant and non-buoyant, so that it would just sort of hover there. So it wouldn't sink or float, but just stay neutral. This means that by adding the perfect amount of weight, a diver can become neutrally buoyant, making descents and ascents easier. Alright, ocean acoustics. When you're on dry land, sound travels in waves through the air. When those waves reach your ear, they vibrate the tiny audio bones in the inner ear. Now go underwater. The sound waves don't move through the air, they move through the water. Sound waves actually travel 5 times faster in water than in air. Underwater, those sound waves don't vibrate the bones in your middle ear, they go straight to the skull bones, vibrating the heavy bone you can touch just behind your ear. This essentially means that underwater we can hear high frequency sounds and lose lower ones. It also means that it is impossible to tell the direction of the sound using hearing alone. Gonna have to reload my thing real quick. Bear with me, please. Take a wee minute. Alright, sweet. So we're onto vision now. So you'll probably notice when you're under the water, things will appear larger than they usually do. So when a diver is underwater, you should notice a phenomenon, and that's the phenomenon, and it's called it doesn't have a name. So especially things like further away, that they'll appear quite large. This is because glass is almost the same optical properties as water, and very little refraction occurs as light passes from water into the mask lens. However, the density of the mask lens is much greater than the density of the air inside the mask. As light passes from the mask lens into the air, it diverges, so the opposite of focusing. This results in objects appearing larger than they would out of the water. Alright. It would usually be like about 25% increase in size. It's the same thing when you're looking into the water and you see that things are larger. Alright, how to select, use and maintain equipment. Diving mask. A diving mask is a piece of equipment that, when secured over the eyes and nose, allows the user to see more clearly underwater. A mask that fits securely and comfortably is very valuable when diving. And when a mask is being selected for use, a good method is to press it against your face where it would normally sit, then inhale through your nose. And if the mask is comfortable and cannot fall off your face, it is a good selection. After every use, a mask should be cleaned with fresh water to remove any salt and other residue. This will ensure the mask has a long life and maintain its condition. A snorkel is usually paired with a mask. It allows the user to breathe air while having their face in the water. To select an adequate snorkel, a diver must ensure it fits correctly in their mouth, so that water does not leak through the mouthpiece when in use. After every use, just like the mask, it should be cleaned with fresh water, and that'll give it a good long life. Fins or flippers are essentially extensions of a diver's feet, used to allow easier and more efficient travel through the water. When selecting a set of fins, it is important that they fit well without being too tight, that it causes discomfort. After every use, the fins should be cleaned with fresh water to remove any salt and other residue. This will ensure the fins have a long life and maintain their condition. Exposure protection. Exposure protection suits are used to protect the body and combat against cold and harsh conditions. There are many different types and extensions of exposure suits. Depending on where you'll be diving and for how long should depend on what kind of exposure protection should be used. After every use, the exposure suit should be cleaned with fresh water to remove any salt and other residue. This will ensure the suit has a long life and maintain its condition. Weight system. The primarily used weight system is the weight belt, which can be secured around the waist and usually allows weight to be added or removed. A diver should be looking for the perfect amount of weight so that when they are using all of the equipment and exposure protection, they would be neutrally buoyant in the water. This may require testing to find out what weight is perfect for each individual diver. Remembering that fresh water is less buoyant than salt water, this will usually result in a 2 kg difference. After every use, the weight system should be cleaned, obviously. Alright, dive knife. So the dive knife is an essential piece of equipment, as it can be used to cut a diver loose in the case of entanglement and other dangerous scenarios. When selecting a dive knife, it should be reliable and have a sharp edge. It should also be secured on person where it can be reached and released from each individual hand. After every use, a dive knife should be cleaned with fresh water to remove salt and residue. What to look for when selecting a skin diving site. Waves. So swimming into oncoming waves can cause water to get into a diver's snorkel, not to mention the added difficulty with swimming that is present when conditions are harsh. Strong waves or chop can also affect visibility, so watch out for that. Using a marine forecast and weather sites, such as Met Service, a diver can predict the conditions for the potential wave dive site. Natural landscapes and site locations may offer shelter from certain wind directions. Tides and currents. So strong tidal currents can be a dangerous hazard for a diver, having the potential to drag them away from the dive site and out into the open ocean. Once again, you can use the marine forecast and predict when the low and high tides are going to be. Tidal currents are at their strongest when the tide is rising or receding. Narrow openings such as river and harbour mouths can make currents more extreme if you're in that area. Incoming and outgoing tides can also affect visibility. The optimal time to plan a dive is at low or high tide before the tide turns. This will be when the water is the most calm. I've had the same error. Just have to load it up again. Second. Alright, we're on to surge now. So surge or storm surge is caused when there is a sudden, powerful rush of water, primarily caused by cyclones or other weather events. Where in some places surge can have no effect, it can be devastating in other regions. It is recommended not to undergo any diving activities when a large weather event is active, as a large surge can form, being very hazardous. Visibility. So having poor visibility can have a pretty negative effect on a diver's experience, making the dive less enjoyable when you can't actually see much. This makes dive planning even more important, so that during a dive there is maximum visibility. Strong wind, rain and coastal currents can have a negative effect on visibility, so having a good weather service can be very valuable when planning times and locations for a dive. Temperature. So we're going to start with cold. Diving in cold environments can be very hazardous if precautions aren't taken and hypothermia sets in. Having good exposure protection is a must-have when diving in cold environments, protecting vital organs and muscle groups from cold waters. Having a warm change of clothes is a good way to warm up out of the water. So now we're into warm temperatures. On a hot day with no shade in the area of the dive site, the body can reach dangerously high temperatures, which leads to hyperthermia. Wearing exposure protection can add to the danger since they are designed to hold warmth. During a dive, it's helpful to bring cold water for drinking and to remove the top half of an exposure suit and to keep cool outside of the water. So when you're not actually diving. Hypothermia. So the hypothermia is a medical emergency that occurs when the body loses heat faster than it can produce heat, causing a dangerously low body temperature. A symptom of hypothermia is confusion and often changes in personality. So if someone's acting strangely, you can often tell something's up. To combat hypothermia, the patient needs to be warmed up quickly. A change of dry clothing and emergency blankets can be very useful. If left untreated, hypothermia will eventually lead to death. Right, hyperthermia, so the hot one. Hyperthermia refers to a group of heat-related conditions characterized by an abnormally high body temperature. In other words, the opposite of hypothermia. The condition occurs when the body's heat regulation system becomes overwhelmed by outside factors, causing a person's internal temperature to rise. Symptoms of this are dizziness, confusion, and when it's extreme, fainting. To combat hypothermia, the patient should be sat somewhere cool and shaded, and prompt to slowly drink water if they're conscious. Applying something wet and cold against the skin will also be pretty good. If left untreated, it'll eventually lead to death. Alright, so shallow water blackouts. A shallow water blackout is an underwater faint due to the lack of oxygen to the brain. or hypoxia, brought on by holding your breath for long periods of time. Without immediate rescue, the swimmer will quickly drown. Avoid hyperventilation and exercise before or during the dive to help prevent shallow water blackouts. Don't overweigh yourself. Don't overweigh yourself while breath hold diving. Alright, barotraumas. Barotrauma refers to an injury caused by increased air or water pressure, such as during airplane flights or scuba diving. Barotrauma of the ear is quite common. Generalized barotraumas, also called decompression sickness, affects the entire body. Your middle ear includes the eardrum and the space behind it. To avoid barotraumas from occurring, it's important to equalize early and often, usually before any ear discomfort is being felt. The first aid for this is when feeling fullness in one's ear after diving, abstain from further diving. Use a nasal decongestant spray or drops. This will reduce the swelling or nasal mucosa and Yersin tube mucosa, so mucus, which may help to open the Yersin tubes and drain the fluid from the middle ear. You should probably seek a doctor as well when you can. Entanglement can happen at any time, so a diver should always be prepared. Seaweed, kelp, nets, etc. are always present dangers to the casual diver. Having a dive knife is an essential tool, so it can be used to cut oneself loose. Having a dive buddy present is also important, so that they can help out if necessary. Boat traffic. So, avoid conducting dive activities in areas with heavy boat traffic. Use a float flag to signal to boats that there are divers in the area. Look upwards when swimming to the surface to make sure there is nothing above you. Never assume that you are visible when in the water. So if you see a boat in the area, raise one arm. Alright, sweet. That's the end of it. Cool.